item 8. Now, item 8 was generated out of a previous decision of this planning committee some time ago, and we've heard from the respective chairs, representatives of Puki Tāpapa Local Board and Albert Eden Local Board, and now I'm going to hand over to David Wong, who is the Senior Policy Planner with us online now to take us through item 8, which is our anticipated endorsement of the area plans for Puki Tāpapa and Albert Eden boards. David, in your good hands. Now, I will also have them. Sorry, just before you go, I have the Councillor Casey moving this, Councillor Fletcher seconding it, I think. So I'll put the mover and the seconder up there for recommendations A and B. Sorry, David, to interrupt. Back to you now.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair, and good morning, members. This report is seeking the endorsement of the area plan for parts of Puki Tāpapa and Albert Eden local boards. Delegations are also being sought for the Manager of Central and South Planning to approve minor editorial changes to the plan. The plan is seeking to support the regeneration of a number of suburbs in Puki Tāpapa and also Ororaka and Sandringham in Albert Eden local board area. In July, the Albert Eden and Puki Tāpapa local boards approved the content of the area plan. A copy of the area plan is provided in Appendix A to the report. So I'd also like to sort of touch on the question that was raised around the term mana whenua cultural landscape, and it's my understanding that that was initially proposed by Nathan Kennedy. Nathan is the Senior Specialist Maori Heritage Officer, and he worked closely with mana whenua in developing the cultural landscape content in the plan. And his proposal was supported by mana whenua. So I hope that answers the question. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, David. Are there any questions of David on this area plan? Acting Mayor, Bill Cashmore.
Thanks, David. And my question relates to the Auckland Light Rail Corridor and how that is going to impact upon the area plan, given that it's going to be talking up to 200,000 additional people and the associated dwellings. And the uncertainty that lies around that, how is that going to impact upon this area plan over the next couple of years?
Yeah, so the area plan advises that the Auckland Light Rail route is still under investigation, and that there will be future opportunities provided for intensification around future stations and stops within the plan area. So that's how it is addressed in the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Further questions? Member Karen Wilson.
Kia ora, David. Thank you for the presentation. My question won't be a surprise, and an answer to your question. The notion of council staff proposing and defining cultural landscape. Can you advise me how that plays out in terms of ensuring that at a governance level, when it's defined as cultural landscape, what does it mean? What does cultural landscape mean?
David.
Yeah, so the cultural landscape is expressed through the eyes of mana whenua, and it encompasses their issues and aspirations for the actual area. So it's very much through their eyes.
Okay, it sounds like a silly question, but So when you say their eyes, who defines who there is in terms of defining a cultural landscape in a specific area?
That came out of a series of hui that we had with mana whenua to actually develop the ideas, the explanations to build up that information on cultural landscape that is incorporated into the area plan.
Thank you. I might reference, I'm sorry, I'm not meaning to I might reference John, of John's online. That is quite a significant phrase to use, to utilize, and have defined if it's not well known, and that causes great concern if it's then being incorporated into area plans. Is John online, John? I don't necessarily
we don't
want to
have.
get
I don't
into
think we
the
have
detail.
John. John is. I think he's taking some well-earned leave after a very long.
He is here, I'm sorry. Yeah. Celia could.
But we do have Celia Davison, Karen. I can pass to Celia. Celia.
Thank you.
Yeah, Karen, when we started this work with the mana whenua through this project, we ran a series of huis, and they had expressed a real desire to have some recognition of what the landscape or the area as a whole was to them. And so we had some initial mapping done, which was pretty crude, I suppose, to give it when we first started. And they asked for it to be much more explicit and to provide a lot more detail as to what the historical landscape looked like. So in terms of that, we ran a series of hui with them over a period of 4 months. The naming for this work, for the mapping of this work, was floated by the person who helped us to do it from the Maori Heritage team, and it was fully supported. The naming of the work, which was a collection of maps and descriptions of what was in those areas from a historical perspective and a cultural perspective, those were fully supported by all the mana whenua who were there, and that included, we've sent you a list of all the people who were there, and they all supported that naming of that particular set of maps and the information that was provided along with those maps. They've also fully endorsed the wording within those maps. We've got emails that show that they're fully in support of what the descriptive aspects of those landscapes are and the aspirations that they have for the area. One of the key things that came out of it was their specific request that we did not change it in any way other than through them. So they were the ones who asked us to provide it in the way that you see it in the maps. We did suggest incorporating it into the body of the document, but they were not happy with that. Mana whenua said, no, this is what we want, this is the way we see it, and we would like you to leave it as it is. So yeah, we've certainly had support for the work that's been done, and in terms of the governance side of it, we did have all the iwi that we spoke to them about going out to doing a governance session with their different governance people, and they said, no, we have been given we've been communicating and discussing this with our governance groups, and we are providing their views and ours to you. So we felt that we had got full endorsement for what is in the plan.
Thank you, Celia. Now, Karen, we do have our General Manager of Plans and Places. He's not on leave, as I thought. He's just come into the room, in fact. John, I'm not sure whether you heard the question from Karen before. You've heard Celia reply. Is there anything that you might like to add?
Tākoro Committee. Apologies, I was on another call there. I'm familiar with the issue. I've heard Celia's response there. It's obviously a very tricky one. We felt, or Celia and the team certainly felt, that we had that endorsement from all the relevant mana whenua entities. It'd be fair to say that we had kaitiaki representatives for some iwi and governance for some other iwi, and we haven't had the governors of all iwi endorse the area plan, but the engagement indicated there was that support. So there may be a communication breakdown between kaitiaki and governance. That could be one of the issues. We may have perhaps relied too heavily on kaitiaki as opposed to checking in with governance on this particular issue of the cultural landscapes. But I think Celia's given a good overview there. If this is a significant issue for the committee and there's a feeling that this issue isn't resolved properly, then it would require the area plans to go back to the local boards with any amendments, and also to mana whenua, given the statements that Celia's made there about the level of endorsement the team felt that they had. So we'd certainly owe it to mana whenua to go back and check in on any redescription of cultural landscapes. So I'm not sure if I can add much more, Chair.
Thank you, John. Are there further questions from anybody? Karen?
Can I? So this is a pretty significant issue, unfortunately, in the sense that there's now a phrase called cultural landscapes. John's just outlined that he's not sure that it would have gone to a body that is able to determine if that's a relevant definition for themselves. I hear clearly Celia saying mana whenua, but there's no clarity around which of those would have had the decision-making ability. I'm confident, Mr. Chair, that it shouldn't be held up, but just a checkpoint to ensure that some mana whenua may or may not be comfortable, but there's some provision that if there's some uncomfortableness about it, that they're able to raise it, but not prevent the area plan for moving forward. So I'm, because this is the precedent setting in terms of local, and I'm assuming they'll all involve those sorts of things, and I would expect and hope that this phrase, which is very fraught, cultural landscape, is the accurate description of what's trying to be portrayed, which I actually am unsure of, to be honest.
Kia ora, Karen. Thank you. That point is noted. Are there any other questions on this matter, members? Then I'll close the questions. Thank you to David, Celia, John,
Is there an ability, Mr. Chair, to look at putting another amendment to try and cover that eventuality? Is that it's a checkpoint, a checklist subject to further consideration if mana whenua are uncomfortable, no more, no less, but endorses the area plan? Could that possibly be an additional recommendation?
It could be, but I don't have anything before me, and it's moved and seconded, and I was just going to go to the speaking turn. Now I'm just checking the A and the B and the way it is written. We could have after the A, after the current member Wilson, if you could just follow this, after the A that you've got before you there, and it reads, in attachment A of the agenda report, it could go on to say, subject to further consideration if mana whenua are uncomfortable with the definition and use of cultural landscapes as defined. Okay? And then there could be a C, delegate authority of the Chief Executive of Council to approve the amendments to the area plan relating to how the content referred to as cultural landscapes is described. Now, I've read that off quite quickly, so there are two parts there, Karen. Can I come back to you? Would that cover it for you, Karen?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'm just going to put that up, and I'm now just going to invite the mover, Councillor Casey, and the seconder, Councillor Fletcher, in the first instance to look at that. If you could just see the words, and there they are for inclusion. Councillor Casey.
Sorry,
We're
Mr.
very
Chair.
happy with it, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, I'll go to
Mr.
Councillor
Chair.
Casey first. Councillor Casey, sorry, I've given you very little time to read that, Councillor Casey, but
I was following the discussion. It's perfect. Yep.
thank
Well
you,
done,
Councillor
Karen.
Casey. I'll now go to the second, which is with Councillor Fletcher. Councillor Fletcher?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to support this, and I would like to withdraw so that Karen Wilson can second this. It's important in terms of inclusivity, and I think it would be a welcome move if Member Wilson is happy to do so.
Thank you. Member Wilson, would you like to take the second on these motions, A, B and C?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you, Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you. Okay, it is moved, the A, B and C as amended, and we'll now go to comments, and I have comment from Councillor Casey, please.
Oh, thanks, Chris. Oh, I just want to say how proud I am that this is being signed off today. It's been a long journey, and it's testament to the professionalism of David, Celia, and a whole host of teams in the back rooms. These things don't happen by magic. It's a lot of hard work, and I want to also mention Harry, as Councillor Fletcher did. We'll be missing you, Harry, for your ability to get the best out of teams, and that's what you've done here. A magnificent effort. Mana Whenua have been there every step of the way. And I just want to talk about that inclusivity, because the councillors, at least from my own perspective, I've also been there every step of the way, both through attendance at the local board meetings. Unfortunately, Puki Tāpapa is at the same time as one of our committees, but all the Albert Eden local board meetings, I was there when it was signed off unanimously. A great day for them. This is a great day now for Auckland Council. So just a magical day. I just want to say thank you to everybody concerned. And this is some of the best work that Auckland Council does. It's unrelenting. It's hard, and the payoff is enormous. So very proud, David. Congratulations, and thank you, Chris, for the opportunity to just say that.
Thank you, Councillor Casey. And now I'll go to Councillor Fletcher, please.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I've commented already in terms of the respect that I have for the Puki Tāpapa board and Harry in particular, and the fact that he is retiring. But I also want to acknowledge Lee Corrick. She is also retiring, and she has been a quiet supporter of this. The thing that gets lost often in politics, because you always have to have a winner and a loser, is that nobody really owns these issues. And the issues will be enhanced when people can come together in an inclusive way. So I think this is a very good piece of work, and commending it to my fellow councillors and to our community. I think it's got much of the hallmarks of council at its very best. But as a word of caution, as an older woman now, it's a shame on things that are really, really important that somebody has to own them. I think this should be owned by the community. We don't want political agendas with these things. We want good community outcomes. And I think this does represent it. And I really welcome the input from the Independent Mahere Statutory Board. It's great to see their support for this. And finally, on a note of sincere thanks, David, to the officers. You've been stars on this. You've taken time to explain those things that I felt a measure of discomfort over. And I love the way that you're helping our local boards build bridges and work together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I have no further speakers, so I will take motions A, B and C endorsing the area plan. delegating authority and then further delegation on the question of the cultural landscapes to the Chief Executive. We'll take that to the vote. Please say aye in support.
Aye.
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 Aye. Well done, David. Well done, Celia.
Contrary, no,
Thank you.
and declare that huge body of work carried. Thank you. Thanks to everybody.
Unanimously. Whoop, 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 whoop.
And I think it's recorded unanimously, as Councillor Casey would like to see on the record.